Book review for Mermaids Never Drown, Tales to Die For. This is a young adult anthology, which is edited by Zoraida Cordova and Natalie C. Parker and features a lot of big name young adult and middle grade authors. So if you didn't know, Zoraida and Natalie edited this book first, which is Vampires Never Get Old, Tales with a Fresh Bite. The Netflix show First Kill was based off of a short story from this collection, and the short story was written by V.E. Schwab. I will say that only the first episode in that show was based off her short story, and the subsequent episodes were not. I add that to say I loved the first episode of the show, but did not love the rest of the show. Anyways, whenever I realized that show was coming out and V.E. Schwab had written a short story, I'm a fan of her work, and so I had to go grab this anthology, which I had never heard about, and I absolutely loved it. Fast forward last year, Mermaids Never Drown come out, and it's another anthology. It has new authors that wrote the short stories, but the same editors that created the first book. I am obsessed with mermaids. I'm pretty biased to any ocean setting. It's just one of those settings that I adore. I love being around water. I love being around the ocean. So if a book includes an ocean setting, I'm already a little biased to it, let's be honest. So I got Mermaids Never Drown, and I mean, just the cover is so cute. I've actually had tons of you message me, because it's usually propped up behind me on my bookshelf, asking what is this book, and so this is what I'm gonna tell you about. I adored this one too. I ended up rating every single short story in here and then coming up with the average of all my ratings to get a true rating for the book. So I rated this one a very strong 4 stars. There were a few short stories in here that I did not vibe with, and I think my lowest rating was 2 stars on one of them. But for the majority, these shorts were 5-star reads, and I'll even tell you the titles of some of my favorites. So this was a markup book for the Traveling Bookkeepers, which is a postal book club that I do with some friends from the bookkeepers community. And so I just got this back, and oh yeah, so I wrote in the back my notes, my favorites. So my favorites were The Story of a Knife, The Dark Calls, The Nightingale's Lament, and The First and Last Kiss, which The First and Last Kiss I think was my absolute favorite out of it. But this was all about mermaids, and we get a wide variety of mermaids, some that are visiting land, some that are in the ocean, some that are trapped in an exhibition of sorts. We have sirens, we have LGBTQ plus rep in a lot of these stories. It's a really fun time. I definitely recommend. If you've never tried an anthology, I really love these because they center around a theme, whereas first book was vampires, this one was mermaids, and they have a new one coming out in 2024 later in the fall that's going to be about fairies. I will absolutely be pre-ordering that and reading it to go with this collection. I did get to meet some of these authors at YALLFest last year, and so I got the book signed, but then they also gave these little tarot cards, which this side kind of matches the vampire book, and the other side features art from this book. So the first one is 6,000 Miles. That one is really cute. And then Nor'easter. I didn't know, but this one's actually based off of a historical event, which was pretty cool. And then this was one of my favorite ones, The First and Last Kiss. So the authors gave these out at the signing that I went to, but you can go to the author's page and find a link to look at a small picture of all of the art that they had. I only got 3, but I think there was a set of 12. But they did this as a pre-order gift for Mermaids Never Drown. So I'm hoping to see if they announce a pre-order gift of something similar for the fairy book that comes out in October. I will say, if I'm comparing the two, I do think I still love vampires more, which is crazy because overall I tend to be very picky with vampires, and so I either love vampire stories or I hate them. There's usually no in between. But I gave this one 5 stars and I gave this one 4 stars. However, I do feel like I need to go back and reread vampires and maybe do the same rating system where I rate each individual short story and then get an average, because I felt like that was a more representative way to do it. But either way, I love these young adult fantasy re-inspired anthologies and recommend them for anyone who loves stories about vampires or mermaids or fairies if you're willing to wait till the fall.